Huh? I asked, pulling off one side of my headphones. I said I like your boots, the man repeated. Oh, thank you. I had a bunch of pairs exactly like them for years and years. A good working boot, you know? They definitely are. I use them every day on the job. Where's that at? Turner Construction. Ah, yes. You're building that big old thing up on East Avenue, ain't you? Yes, sir. It's going to be one of the biggest in the city. So it seems. I used to do construction too, you know? That was way back in the day. I started back when your mama was probably a toddler. Oh yeah? With a company or freelance or... My papa had a small construction and carpentry business. He hired me when I was, maybe 15 or so. That was all the way back in 1962. We built houses, mostly a couple small apartment complexes, nothing as big as what you're working on. Did you like it? Boy, you bet your ass I did. Working all day was a free gym membership. Ha! Plus, all the perks that came with it. Perks? He smiled. Can you keep a secret, boy? Yes, sir. You ever play in a construction site as a child? When I was a little one, me and my buddies would sneak into houses being built and explore them. Maybe break a couple bottles here and there. Yeah, my neighbors and I used to do that when I was a kid. My house was one of the first built in our neighborhood, then the rest came later. We probably explored every house on the block before they were finished. When they were just wood skeletons, maybe breaking a couple bottles too, to tell you the truth. Of course you did. Who wouldn't, given the opportunity? But that's all the childish stuff. The real perks came later in life when I was an adult. Oh? Oh yes, boy. Imagine this. The year is 1980 with no cell phones in sight. You talk up a pretty lady at the local bar and hit it off. You tell her about your new construction project and she wants to go see it. Uh-huh. Well, then you take her there. You and her, all alone in a skeleton of a home, as you said. Wouldn't it be a little more private back at your own house? More private, sure, maybe, but much messier. I paused. How so? Well, you don't just take a girlie down to a construction site at night just to get your diddly fiddle with. You take her for, you know. No, I don't know. For the easy disposal, boy. Disposal? You cut the girlie up or do whatever your preference is. You do whatever you want to do with her, and you put her under the house. You bury her in your stained clothes under there too. Once the job's done, no one will ever see that stuff again. It's gone. Eventually, a brand new house is sitting on top of your deed. The bus rolled to a stop. Well, this is my stop. He stood, patted my shoulder, and I recoiled. He walked off the bus. The only thing running through my mind was a memory. I was a kid, no older than 6. My friends and I were playing hide and seek. I hid in the crawl space under my front porch, and when I was hiding, I found a pair of boots half buried in the dirt. The exact same type of boots I was wearing then, on the bus. The exact same type of boots we'd found in the crawl spaces of every house in our neighborhood.
The circumstances that nearly took my life started out normal. I take a bus to work every single day and then go home the same way. I've been riding this bus for the better part of 3 years, ever since I became a registered nurse. The long hours never bothered me, and neither did the late-night bus rides home. Usually it was just me and the driver. He would always smile and be friendly and ask how I was, take my ticket fare, and tell me I could sit wherever I wanted to. I was always friendly back and never felt that anything was out of the ordinary. Not until I noticed an older gentleman begin to ride the bus as well around the same time. When we first met, he was already abroad and reading a book. It looked like he was a lawyer or something because he was well dressed and clean shaven. When he saw me, he asked me my job as if my scrubs weren't a clue, and I even offered my name. I figured there was no harm in being nice to someone. He told me his name was Clyde, and he worked in the downtown area. I told him my name was Miranda, and I had a 12-hour shift in Midtown ER. We were usually on the bus together for no more than 10 minutes, and we would share stories of our life together. Just pleasant conversations. I never would have thought that 10 minutes could change my life. Clyde was super friendly, but rarely offered any details about his personal life. He had a way of asking me questions, and since it was just small talk, I didn't see anything wrong with giving him bits and pieces of my life. That was how it went for a few weeks. Clyde would engage in conversation and ask me a few things, then he would get off the bus and wave, "See you tomorrow," he would always say. Then I started thinking about why he was on the bus. It was very late, and typically no one else would ever be there. Sometimes it seemed like he anticipated my arrival. And then he began to offer me books, small tokens of appreciation for our talks. I declined at first, and then it became awkward. I finally decided to confide in the driver and ask what they knew about Clyde. I waited until I could be on the bus at a time I knew Clyde wouldn't be riding. It took me about a week, but when I was finally alone, I decided to ask the driver a few questions. "I'm sorry if this is rude, but is the man that normally rides with me, do you know him, I mean?" I asked. It probably sounded very strange to ask this. "I'm not sure who you're talking about," the driver admitted. I told them what Clyde looked like, and they caught on quickly to what I really wanted to know. "That guy? Oh yeah, I noticed how he always talks with you. You know, sometimes he rides this bus for hours just to make sure you get on. My opinion? He's always waiting to chat with you," he said. That made me nervous in a way that I couldn't describe. Clyde was beginning to sound like a stalker. I thanked the driver and asked if he could help me a little to keep Clyde from bothering me. "I'm not sure what I can do, but sure," the driver told me. The next day I was on pins and needles when I rode the bus. I didn't like the idea of anyone watching me and monitoring my activities. It made me realize that I told Clyde a lot of personal details that someone could use against me. My birthday, where I lived, and that I was alone, for example. I'm really stupid sometimes, just oblivious to the fact that there are dangerous people in this world. When I got on the bus, I anticipated his smile and was hoping that it would not be a big scene if I ignored him. Instead, much to my surprise, Clyde wasn't there. The driver gave me a grin. I told him I'll have to ride a different route from now on. I don't want my good customers scared off because of his behavior, the driver told me. I was so happy I wanted to cry and thanked the driver repeatedly before sitting down. "If there's anything I can do to repay, please don't hesitate to ask," I told him. He smiled back and closed the door to the bus as I took a seat near the middle. "You know, I'm real glad you spoke up for yourself, Miranda. That guy was never going to be good enough for you. Girl like you deserves someone more sophisticated," the driver said. "I just didn't want him to get the wrong idea," I said with a shrug. "I get it. He thought he could make a move on you and didn't realize you were already taken," he said with a chuckle. I picked up on that last word, a bit perplexed by it. "No, I'm single," I said. "Sure, I just meant you're off the market," he commented as we turned the corner. I looked out and saw that we passed my stop, and I stood up to tell him, only for the driver to keep going further out of town. "I need to get back to my apartment," I told him. Suddenly, I wasn't feeling safe anymore as he increased his speed. "Miranda, I want to show you something. Just sit back and enjoy the ride, okay?" he said with a laugh, but it didn't sound friendly anymore. I sat down and fidgeted, looking down at my phone. I was about to call 911 when the driver glanced back at me in the mirror and shouted, "I hope you're not thinking about trying to interrupt this conversation, Miranda. I waited a long time to be alone with you. I would rather hate for something to happen now, and we never get to really know one another." "Where are you taking me?" I asked. I didn't see any city lights. We were almost at the county line, and only fields of corn and open sky awaited us. "Somewhere you'll be taken care of," he said as we pulled off the road, down through some trees. This terrain was bumpy, and I noticed immediately my phone wasn't working. As we slowed down, I saw that there was an old abandoned airport off in the distance, and the driver pulled up to the maintenance bay. Once we parked, he opened the door and commented, "Please don't do something that you're going to regret." I knew he meant that if I ran, he would hurt me. I nervously stepped off the bus and looked around the dirty, dusty hangar. And then I saw Clyde, chained to a rusty army helicopter with his chest exposed and blood streaking down his face. "Oh my God," I said, trying to suppress a scream. "You like that? I told you I would take care of it. Tonight, you will see how he is never going to bother you again," the driver said as he approached a nearby storage shed and took out several sharp surgical knives. "This isn't what I wanted," I said, my body trembling as he cut Clyde's wrist. "Miranda, I don't mean to offend, but I don't think you know what you want." Clyde shrieked in pain as blood gushed out. I cried for them to stop, That seemed to infuriate the driver, and they were at my throat next, their grubby fingers almost choking me. "I thought he didn't matter to you. Or have you been lying again?" he said. His breath smelled of rancid gas or tobacco. I had to think fast. "It's just, I don't want you to do something that I should be able to do myself," I said as I extended my hand and asked for the blade. "Relationships are built on trust. You have to trust me to handle this," I told him. I made sure to keep my voice as neutral as possible. The bus driver looked at the blade, clearly surprised by my sudden change, and for a brief moment, I thought he wasn't going to comply. Then, he passed the blade to me and said, "Prove your devotion to me." I walked over to Clyde, tears streaming down my eyes as I clenched the blade hard. "I'm sorry you have to see this," I whispered. Then I turned and stabbed the driver right in the gut. I moved so fast he didn't anticipate it, but he certainly tried to fight back. I kept stabbing, screaming in anger until his body was still. Then I searched his blubbering, bloody corpse for a key to Clyde's chains. As soon as Clyde was free, I moved us toward the bus and cranked the engine. To my surprise, the driver was still alive, crawling toward us and calling my name. I stepped on the gas and hit him as we got out of the hangar, his intestines spreading across the windshield like confetti. As soon as I had a signal, I called the police, and they came to our location to get a full report. Clyde and I don't talk much about that night or how it changed things between us. Ironically, we did start a relationship. I guess that's why it's important not to judge a book by its cover.